Senator Ted Cruz is with us. Mr. Senator, in your opinion, how does President Biden look right now on the world stage?
Well, Stuart, I have to say it is incredibly dangerous. He looks terrible. He looks weak, and that weakness is dangerous. This past year, we've seen disaster after disaster from the Biden administration, but as bad as their economic policy has been, as bad as their domestic policy has been, nothing has been a greater disaster than their foreign policy. Several months ago, the Americans and people across the world were horrified as we watched the disaster of Afghanistan, the catastrophe of Biden surrendering to the Taliban, abandoning Americans behind enemy lines, and fleeing in disgrace. And that decision has consequences that are going to last years into the future, because what happened, every enemy of America looked to Washington and they took a measure of the man in the Oval Office. And they determined that Joe Biden is too weak to deter them. And what we're seeing is the bad guys are getting worse. We're seeing Russia and China and Iran and North Korea. Every one of them is getting worse. As we sit here right now, over 100,000 Russian troops are massed on the border of Ukraine preparing to invade. And they're invading because they do not believe Joe Biden will do anything. And in fact, with Russia and Ukraine, it's even worse. The direct cause of this Russian invasion that is expected in January or February of next year is that Joe Biden surrendered to Putin and gave him the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which enables Russia to bypass Ukraine for delivering natural gas to Europe, which is why now Putin feels he can invade Ukraine. I don't know what Biden's going to say to Ukraine other than sorry for selling you down the river, because sadly that's what he's done.
Okay, I'm going to move on to another subject, Senator. Biden's vaccine mandate for large private companies rejected in the Senate. What are the chances that this thing gets killed for good?
Well, it needs to be killed for good. The vaccine mandate is illegal, it's unconstitutional, and it's a grotesque abuse of power. And I think Biden knows that. I think the White House lawyers told Biden that this is illegal. This will get struck down in the courts. And cynically, I think they made the decision to ram it through anyway, assuming that litigation will take time, will take months or years. And in the meantime, a whole lot of people will obey. Last night's vote was a really important vote. We voted on rescinding Biden's vaccine mandate for private employers. It passed with a bipartisan majority. Every Republican and 2 Democrats joined us. And this is one of the very few cracks in the blue wall, is that you had Joe Manchin and John Tester both vote with us. It'll now go to the House. The pressure is going to be on Nancy Pelosi. Nancy doesn't want to vote on this. She's going to try to fight to say, we're not voting on this. And the Republicans in the House are going to press to vote it. And the question is there going to be, even a handful of Democrats in the House that have the courage to stand up to Nancy Pelosi? I don't know the answer to that. Nancy's going to try to kill it. But if they vote on it in the House and you see a handful of Democrats with even a little bit of courage, it'll pass, and then it'll go to Joe Biden, and we'll see if he vetoes it. Now, given how extreme he is, he'll probably veto it. But this is a bipartisan repudiation of the illegal and abusive vaccine mandate.
And that means that the politics of the enforced vaccination, the vax mandate, the politics is really shifting here. A couple of months ago, I mean, you had large numbers of people who say, yeah, the vax mandate, you got it. But now that is no longer the case.
Stuart, I think that's right. When we voted previously on issues related to the vaccine mandate, the blue wall is held steady. There haven't been any Democratic defections. And I can tell you, as I travel Texas, as I travel the country, literally every day I'm stopped. I'm stopped by soldiers and sailors and airmen and Marines. I'm stopped by airline pilots and flight attendants. I'm stopped by cops and firefighters and doctors and nurses and people who are frightened about being fired from their job because of this illegal vaccine mandate. And in my view, I'm pro-vaccine. I've been vaccinated. My family's been vaccinated.
Yep.
I encourage people to get vaccinated. But I believe in individual choice.
Exactly.
I believe
this is
that
America.
You can make the decision about your health care with your doctor. And I think there are millions across the country that feel exactly the same way, that this is wrong, that Joe Biden presumes to tell you the health care decisions you've got to make for your own personal health.
This is the United States of America. It's not Austria, for heaven's sake.
Yes.
Mr. Senator, thank you very much for being with us today. Always a pleasure, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You got it.